I think we decided that since this was the first presentation of Kusama in Brazil and Argentina and Mexico, we wanted it to offer a near complete overview of her work as an artist. And we thought this was part of our responsibility to the public in these countries.
And we wanted to show that in her 80s, she's still at the height of her powers. So we have paintings from the last few years, which are really incredible, and part of a very significant practice that she has been exploring obsessively since 2009, these brilliant, coloured, figurative paintings. But what we really wanted to show was how they relate directly back to her very earliest work, from the end of the 1940s and the early 1950s, the period really where she kind of matured as an artist.
The idea was always to give this retrospective look at Kusama's work an original curatorial twist. And in this case, the idea was how Kusama went from private to public, how she went from the studio to the street, and how she really, how her work underwent a process of radicalization in the 1960s, where she jumped from works on paper made in a more traditional Japanese style to these abstract canvases she made when she came to New York and encountered abstract expressionism, through the accumulation sculptures, her early pioneering works of installation, and this gradual dissolving of her identity and spreading of her polka dot motif over the bodies of other participants, and her use of collective creativity through performances, happenings, orgies, be-ins, films.
She moved from somebody who painted figurative paintings in the traditional Japanese Nihonga style to somebody who was really exploring many of the great avant-garde, innovative styles of the 1930s and 40s, particularly late surrealism. She found her feet in surrealism. And I think what we wanted to do is just then to show how that unfolded. And this seemingly, it feels seamless, but it was rather extraordinary. She moved from an artist working in the studio in a conventional way, works on paper, to somebody who started painting on a huge scale in New York, paintings bigger than the biggest of Jackson Pollock. And then she very quickly moved to engage with sculpture in a language that kind of is, it's soft sculpture, but it is also a little bit within the moment of pop. So abstract expressionism, pop art, but there are aspects of her art that also related to minimalism of that time. So this kind of chronological unfolding is a very interesting way to demonstrate just how innovative Kusama was and how she moved step by step, taking on, challenging, conquering all the great avant-garde moments of her era. She was really there at the birth of pop. She was one of the first minimal artists. She was at the forefront of action and politics and performance at that time. What she did on the streets of New York in 1965 and 66 was really more radical than anybody else who'd come out of a painting background.
So when we see the polka dot, often people, I think if you're a graphic designer, you may like it graphically. If you're a fashion designer, you might think about how you could use it in your own clothing. But for Kusama, it always has a kind of personal psychological significance, which is that it represents the hallucination.